What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again. And yes, of course, we're talking about the XFL. And if you haven't, you should subscribe. Why? Because I need all the help I can get. And really, the fact of the matter is that we are an XFL community here, and we're supporting each other. And talking about supporting each other, you know what? I'm just going to go out and I'm just feeling like just handing out shout-outs today. So first and foremost, I've got Tiger Texan, Roughnecks superfan. Listen, he's a guy who covers the Roughnecks. He loves his Roughnecks. Go ahead and check him out. Also, too, I know that my boy Zach Rozowski or Rozowskis. Sorry, Zach. I listened to your video and I tried to pronounce it the best that I can. But listen, this cat's got he's got a podcast that's out there. Really cool guy. Has some great ideas, some great thoughts. You should go ahead and check him out. He's going to be starting back up his podcast here soon, so go check him out. And also, too, Zach, leave the guys something down there in the comment section, and I'll try to pin it so that the guys can get to it. Alrighty, and then last but not least, listen, you guys leave me some good comments, and I'll just go ahead and feature them. And, of course, Dalton Ferris, I love your comment. It's not the DC Defenders anymore. It's the DC Pretenders. And it's almost like they're starting to act like their counterparts there in Washington, D.C., not getting anything done and just stalemated and all that out there. So, yeah, I got a good laugh out of that. And it just goes to show you guys, listen, leave me some comments down in the comment section. And if they're a good comment, especially if they're funny, good question, I'll definitely feature them in an upcoming video. All right. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and let's get into the content that we got for today. And let's just start off with how Mumme broke his leg. And to all of you just whiny babies out there, he coached for another 2.5 quarters and was just fine doing it. So he's kind of one of those guys, like they said, he's old school. It was kind of funny in the video, in the game, if you watched it, the commentators were talking about how he's old school and they're showing their toughness and that. He really did show that he's tough. He's a tough guy. And what excuse do you guys have is the question. And listen, if you're worried about him, he's going to be up in the press booth from now on. So he's going to be up high and he's going to be calling plays from up there. He's not going to be down on the field. I would imagine he's still going to have that signature swag towel, so don't worry about that. But yeah, he's still going to be calling all the plays. He's just going to be up in the booth where it's a little bit more safe. And keep it on with kind of the stuff that's coming out. We're gonna from Dallas. We're gonna stay with Dallas and we're gonna talk about Landry Jones. Now today we got some big news about Landry Jones. It looks like things aren't as bad as what we thought they were. Still not great though. It looks like he's going to be out. He's going to be out at least 2 weeks. He re-aggravated the injury that he had at the beginning of the season. And so it looks like that this is just a continuation of that, not anything any worse, but that's not good. That's missing him for at least 2 more weeks. So you're already sitting 2-2 as it is. So if you lose 2 more games without him, and him coming back, that's 2-4. That really puts a strain on things for the season. So definitely not good news for the Renegades. However, they did get Eric Dungey back. They signed him back, which we knew they were going to sign them back. They've been doing this thing back and forth with him, so not anything that we didn't already know. But the nice thing is that the league extended because of kind of the whole injury situation. They were able to keep Brogan Rowe back so that they were able to have Philip Nelson and also have Eric Dungey and then keep Rowe back there as well. So they were able to have them and not be penalized on the roster because of the injury to Landry Jones, which I think is a good thing. So let's go ahead and move on to other news in the world. It looks like some college football teams are taking notice of what the XFL is doing, and they're liking what they're doing. It was kind of funny. Citadel came out there, and they're looking like for their spring game, they're going to add in the XFL rules and that, and kind of run an XFL game for their spring game. And they said, you know what, we thought it would be something fun for the players to do, and they listen, this this isn't anything crazy and big time. I mean, Citadel, they're the ones that their yearly thing where they go out there to Alabama, get their butts handed to them, and get a paycheck. This is not big time football, but again, it just goes to show you that other people inside of football are taking notice of the XFL, what the XFL is doing right, and adapting these things and having fun with it. And so I find that that's cool with it, and I think that we're going to start to see more and more the rules for the XFL being adopted for things. Is this really game-changing? No, but it's kind of a fun little tidbit. And, as we're looking at fun little tidbits and things like that, we mentioned before in kind of my reactions video, the officials kind of attendance and ratings and stuff are coming out for the XFL, and we're down for attendance this past week, which is it's nothing that we didn't know about. It's not that surprising. It's down 11,000 people, and when you're moving away from one of your bigger stadiums and one of your bigger crowds, two of your bigger crowds from Seattle and from St. Louis, that's just kind of what's gonna happen there with moving away from Seattle. So we'll see what happens and see if they can kind of rebound this upcoming week. Looking ahead to this week, they're going to be in Houston, and the cool thing about Houston here is that they've already stated that, listen, we are going to be opening up the upper deck, and so it looks like the XFL is seeing that in certain markets, in certain places, that the XFL is doing well, and they're going to start to open up that upper deck in some of these places. I would love to see it opening up in St. Louis. I think that would be a great place. Listen, the past couple weeks there have been booming. Wasn't as many this past week, but listen, I think that they can, as things are going on, especially as they're becoming, this darling team, and the city is just, everybody is just kind of just embracing them. I think that if they open up the upper deck and do that, I think that they can, start to draw some crazy crowds in some of these places. And that goes to just show you that the XFL not only is recognizing this, but also realizing that there are some markets that things aren't going so hot and that they need to get some sales up. And LA, they know that that's a tough market for them. And it doesn't look like that they're not moving out of LA. But they're trying to figure out ways to get this team, more, get that community wrapped up in this team a little bit more. New York, I think with the win this week, I think that will bolster their attendance come their next home game. Hopefully they can, stay on that kind of trajectory and track with that, especially with Luis Perez coming in their play, doing a bang-up job with that. But MetLife, I think, is right now just too big for them. And, Oliver Luck was asked about that. And, he came out and said, listen, we're going to go ahead and reevaluate, all of these teams and all these different markets and, really find the best place for them. And he said that, MetLife, he kind of alluded to the fact that, they might need to find a new home for the Guardians there. I don't think the Guardians are moving anywhere. They're not going to become, a different team and moving locations, like outside of that area. I think that they just might find a smaller stadium and probably move over to probably like an MLS stadium, the MLS stadium there with it. But yeah, I mean, looking at that thing though, I mean, next week looking kind of interesting. Some really, really good matchups that we have next week that I think could translate into another. Listen, I think if they can keep, I've said this before, if they can keep over 70,000 people, which is an average of 17,500 people in attendance, I think that that's great for them if they can continue on with that trend. And I think that they can, especially with all of the teams still being able to, play for playoff positions. I think that's going to be great. And it could probably, if it can stick that way through like week 7, week 8, I think that that's going to be huge for the league. Now let's go ahead and let's move on and let's talk about the ratings. And again, the national media, you gotta love them. Listen, if there's one thing that you should learn or know about stats, is that you can make a stat say anything you want and use that for a headline, and that's exactly what they're doing. Listen, the XFL ratings are down again. Yes, they are down. But the fact of the matter is that it's really not down as much as what people think. And the other thing is that the numbers that they're pulling in in some of these places, like being on FS1 and being on ESPN2, these are really good numbers for those spots. With outside of college football and outside of the NFL, these are really two nice places, especially for these two spots. Let's just go ahead and let's break it down. So Fox on Saturday at 5 p.m. brought in the highest numbers and was average of 1.8. And then ABC on Saturday at the 2 p.m. game, that was 1.5.5. And then Sundays was at the 4 p.m. game on FS1 was a 1.1. And then the ESPN2 game, the Sunday night game, which was kind of, was the blowout game, that game averaged over a 1. So we're still riding really well, and I think it averaged out to be a 1.4 for the league, which is, again, is down. However, we had the game on ESPN2, which was on ESPN the week before. There's a big difference between the two. There just is. But so you can attribute some of that drop there. But the other thing that I do want to mention, and I do want to show that people aren't saying here is the fact of the matter is that the highest rating that NCAA got was a 1.9, and that was on CBS, a regional, national TV, not cable. The second highest was NBA on NBC, and that was a 2. The highest was a 2.3, and that was the NBA. The second highest was the NCAA on NBC. Both of those, that was it. Those were the only programmings that were higher than the XFL this weekend. Now, what do we take of that? What do we make of that? The XFL is doing really, really good in ratings. And you can skew it however you want. You want to look at it however you want. But for this time of the year, to be pulling these type of ratings and this being their competition, I think that they're doing just fine. Now, granted, I'd like to see them do more. And I think that as we get coverage of the XFL, especially like that XFL making the ESPN top 10 plays and being the number one top 10 play with the Philip Nelson interception there late at the end of the game on the goal line there. I think that that's great. That's cool. And so that pretty much wraps up kind of the news and the stuff that we're talking about. Let's move on here real quick, and let's discuss and let's talk about the power rankings for this week. This week, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to get things out a little quicker this week. This weekend, I'm going to be in Columbus at the Arnold Classic. And not only am I going to be at the Arnold Classic, but I'm also going to be competing in the Pump and Run, the Arnold Pump and Run on Sunday morning. If you guys are interested in me doing any content on that, I know that that's kind of, it's more of a bodybuilding and that type of a thing. It's not necessarily XFL, but if you want to see some stuff from, my experience there, you can, go ahead and let me know down in the comment section. So I'm going to try to get things out a little quicker this week so that when I'm at the Arnold, there isn't as much that I need to do over the weekend. So that's why we're going ahead and we're going to start with the power rankings right now. And remember that tomorrow night at 9:30, we will be going live. And I will go ahead and I will put I'll put out a post to let everybody know. But we're going to go live tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern Time. All right, without further ado, let's start with Week 4's power rankings, and let's kind of go over those real quick. Recap. Houston Roughnecks were number 1. St. Louis Battlehawks, number 2. Number 3 were the Dallas Renegades. Number 4 were the LA Wildcats. Number 5, the DC Defenders. Number 6, the Seattle Dragons. Number 7, Tampa Bay Vipers. And number 8, the New York Guardians. If that was too fast for you guys, go ahead and watch that video again. I'd love to have the extra views. Just kidding, but it really doesn't matter because the fact of the matter is that everything is just completely jumbled up and changed from last week, and we're finding with the XFL, anything can happen in any week, and so that's what we're doing. Now, my power rankings are based mainly upon what you did the past week and comparing that with what you've done as a whole body of work. So we're looking at both of those things, meaning you can move up and down throughout week to week. This is very fluid. I'm not saying that this is the most deserving team. I'm not saying that this is the best team or the most talented team. This is what I'm saying is from last week compared to where they were, where am I moving, where am I shaking these teams, and that based upon that type of a thing. So these things are going to, they're going to move. And that's going to be. But listen, your power rankings can be different. And the whole point of it is for us to have fun and have some good discussion and try to convince each other why we're wrong. That's the whole point of it. I love discussing this stuff. So let's go ahead. Quit ranting. I'm going to quit going and let's get right down into it. Number 8, I've got the DC Defenders, or like some of us like to say, the DC Pretenders, because that's what they've looked like for the last 2 weeks. And listen, I've had a couple of you guys say that they need to bench Cardale Jones. I don't think it's all on Cardale. I think Cardale needs to get his head back in the game. He is not there. 3 weeks ago, he was lazy. 2 weeks ago, he was lazy in LA. This week, he was just despondent and almost like he wasn't there. It was almost like it was weird. You looked at him, and it was like he was off in some other world, like on a beach, and it was just his body going through the motions. Listen, they need to get this team back together. They are all off, and you know, I will give, like, Joey Galloway made some good points. It could be just one or two guys that are off, and it makes everything else look really, really bad. I don't necessarily think that that's it. I think that they're just really off and really, really looking really bad right now. They need to get a jolt in the arm. They need to figure this out, and I don't think changing any quarterback's going to change it. I think that Cardale is a good quarterback when he's on, and he needs to figure out how to be on. Be professional, be on all the time. And that's part of being a professional in this. And so we'll see how he does and how he progresses with this. But this is not, for me, this is not a place where we find a new quarterback. Let's move on to number 7. And for some of you guys might not like this, but this is where we're at. LA Wildcats. I've got you at number 7. When you lose to a New York team that was floundering and you had a really nice opportunity to go into their home place and knock them out, listen, this is where I put you. This one was hard for you guys to take on the chin. Now, I know that you were missing 2 of your biggest playmakers in that game, and I'll give you an excuse for that. But right now, you're still sitting with one win, and on the downside of that one win, meaning you won it a couple weeks ago. And so we need to see some consistency here before I start to bring you up, and we really haven't seen the consistency there. Now, we get Nelson Spruce back and we get Mr. Excitement back, and you know, things might change all next week, and the reality is you can move up 3 or 4 places because the XFL, there's so much parity and everybody is in the play for the playoffs that week to week things do change. So I've got you LA there at number 7. That's not a place where I think you guys are going to stay long, but I think once everybody gets healthy, everyone gets back on the same page, I think you guys are going to be scoring points again, and I think you guys are going to move up. But unfortunately for this week, the way that you guys lost and the way that it was tough and it was hard to see, and so I got you at number 7. Number 6 is Seattle Dragons, and the main reason why I have Seattle above LA is just the fact of the matter is that they've got some excitement coming out of that loss. It really wasn't a bad loss to St. Louis, and they had a shot there at the end of the game, and it didn't pan out for them. But they got some excitement, and there's some excitement in that building, and that's why they're number 6. B.J. Daniels came in, and he ignited this offense. Now, I think with a week of preparation and figuring out a game plan with him, to have him in the game, I think is going to be huge for this team, and I think that you're going to see them succeed, especially on the offense where they've needed to. I think that the defense has been pretty stout. They just haven't been able to figure things out with the offense. And so because of this excitement and the kind of the shot in the arm that this offense has been given with B.J. Daniels, if they can put together a nice game plan in that, who knows? They've got a tough test this week. Looking at it, them going to Houston, there's definitely, but hey, it's the XFL. Anything can happen. So who knows? They might get their second win this week, and BJ might show Walker, what's up. So who knows? We'll see. But that BJ Daniels shot in the arm is what I'm giving them there. Number 5. Some people might find this controversial, as I've got the 2-2 New York Guardians at number 5. And listen, Luis Perez is the man for them. He definitely showed it this past week. He should be the starter going forward, and this team's looking to do some great things. I said at the beginning of the season, I'm going to say it again, they're a sneaky good team. And I don't know if they're going to be really sneaky for the rest of the season, but I think that they're going to be in contention for the playoffs all the way down through the rest of the season. They've got a great secondary. Victor's running the ball well. They've got Luis Perez, who can make some plays now at the quarterback position and is making good decisions, and that is key. They're making good decisions, keeping them in the game and giving them an opportunity to win at the end of the game, and that's what they did, and that's how they pulled it out from LA. So I think that they're going to continue on that, but I got them at number 5, and they're working their way up. To number 4, Tampa Bay Vipers. We've been waiting for this all season. When you look at the stats and when you look at the things that matter, your head, you just go in and you scratch your head. You can't figure out why in the world this team isn't 3-1 or 2-2, that they're 1-3 right now. However, they finally figured it out. And listen, we've got our second rookie starting. Good. My hat goes off to you, Corn Dog. And I think he's going to become a sensation here. I think the question is, though, are they going to stick with Corn Dog, or are they going to go back to Aaron Murray? Corn Dog played a good game, and he did what he needs to do. Didn't really make the mistakes like he had in the past. Now, granted, he had he had that bad throw. You're going to have those throughout the course of the game. Get a little excited, make a bad throw. But what I will say is he played one heck of a game. Came out, looked really nice. He ran hard and we think his shoulder might have come out. He said that to one of the teammates, and then he kind of poo-pooed that in the interview, but it was kind of funny that he got caught on camera. But listen, another rookie starting in the XFL. So thought that was pretty cool, and like that for Corn Dog. And listen, if they can keep that running game going, that two-headed monster with Patrick and Smith, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be hard pressed to beat this team. So I could see them also moving up as well. But sitting at number 4 with only one win, I feel pretty good. And the other thing is the playoffs are right there for them, right there for the taking. This division is wide open. They're one game out of the playoffs. So, yeah, they're looking good, looking strong. Let's go ahead and number 3, Dallas Renegades. Now, I know right now, things are sad. They're missing Landry Jones, and I know a lot of you are saying, listen, he's a guy who's thrown, umpteen bazillion interceptions, but listen, the man led him to also two wins, and he was getting ready to lead him to the third one had it not been for somebody landing on his knee. And that's just reality right there, because at that moment, at that time, it didn't look like Houston was going to be able to stop them. You can say what you want. Houston did stop them, but it wasn't with Landry Jones, and it was with Philip Nelson. And I will say that holding this spot at number 3 is really one of those just sitting there waiting to drop for me, because I watched the game between the Battlehawks and Dallas. And if you watch that, you know that Philip Nelson couldn't do anything, and the Battlehawks just let him dink and dunk all day, and they just stopped him, made him punt, and that was it. And listen, this Battlehawks team has gotten better, and they're a lot better than what they were, and Philip Nelson is not going to be able to do that, and actually they're probably going to start to tee off on him. It's not going to look good. The other thing is that because they've been able to pass with Landry Jones, it's opened up the run. Remember, this air raid offense is more of a pass, and that opens up the run, as opposed to kind of something like the Vipers, where the run opens up the pass, or Seattle for that matter, which is what Seattle's supposed to do. Or New York. I mean, they're all examples of that. This is the opposite of what you normally would see here. And so they need a guy who can really open it up and really get those cornerbacks, get those safeties off the ball. And if you're going to dink and dunk all day, they're not going to get off the ball. They're going to bring that other guy up into the box, and they're going to stop your run game. That's just what's going to happen. That's what happened in the first game, against St. Louis, and it could happen for them here on as they go. So as I look at this Renegades team, I would be looking for a guy like Dungy, and I know that everybody's talking about Philip Nelson will be the starter. He wasn't that bad, this or that, and I know there are guys that don't like Dungy out there. We haven't seen him in any professional play. I do know that he's a more dynamic player than Nelson, and definitely has a better upside than Nelson. And they seem to really like him in Dallas. For them to allow him to leave the team 3 times and then come back, like that for a family emergency, then come back, family emergency, come back. We kind of found out that it was his dad, and then his dad finally passed away, to where I would imagine for the rest of the season he will be with them. And if this injury to Landry Jones continues out, I could see Dungy being the guy at the, as things progress. I just feel like that, I don't feel like they feel that they've spent enough time with him, that there's enough chemistry there for him to really take the reins on this team, or I think that he would be our third starting rookie quarterback in the XFL. Those are just my thoughts on them, and that briefly. We'll discuss more as we break down the games for this upcoming Week 5. Number 2, St. Louis Battlehawks staying where they are. I mean, Teamu, Tamu, however, Taamu, however you guys want to pronounce his name. The fact of the matter is he might be the best quarterback in the league. He looks sharp, looks good. Their running game is just fantastic. They're phenomenal. Put on another good game, had a little bit more of a test, and I like to see him having some adversity and getting through that, working through that, especially, being able to extend that drive toward the end of the game and run out the clock like that. It was really nice to see. They're clicking on all facets. They're playing as a really good team. The key will be is to see them move away from home this week and to see if they can continue on with that on the road. I'd like to see that happen. And then that brings us to Houston. Houston's just been the best team so far. I know that their defense has been a little lacking at times, but listen, when you have an offense that's going to put up the points like they do, that's going to control the ball like they do, and handle things like they do, that's just where you're going to end up at the top, especially when you're 4-0. Listen, they're the king of the mountain right now. And I would say a close second is St. Louis, with their only loss being to the Roughnecks. But yeah, you've got two juggernauts swinging and at the top, and you've pretty much have everybody else that have fallen down, and that's kind of where things are sitting. And right now, the king of the mountain are the Houston Roughnecks until somebody decides to knock them off. But listen, this is the XFL, and we've seen that anything can happen, and crazier things are still to come with the XFL, and that's why it's exciting. That's why it's fun football. That's why I like it. So let's go ahead and let's recap real quick and get on out of here. 8, we got the DC Defenders. Number 7, LA Wildcats. Number 6, the the Seattle Dragons. Number 5, the New York Guardians. Number 4, the Tampa Bay Vipers. Number 3, Dallas Renegades. Number 2, the St. Louis Battlehawks. And number 1, the Houston Roughnecks. Listen, those are my power rankings for this week. The question is, what do you think, and what are your power rankings? Let me know down in the comment section. All right, well, I know that you're busy. I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. Have a good night. Bye.